Hi, this is Pavel with a Visual Basic exercise from the book Starting Programming or Introduction to Programming using Visual Basic. This one is from chapter 9 and this is the project 1. We are to make a program with a menu-driven menu or navigation. We assume that it's going to be a membership list. Basically what it's going to have is a bunch of names with phone numbers associated with each name. It's going to be a text file. We will assume that the names and phone numbers of all members are stored in alphabetical order by last name, then first name, in the text file memberphones.txt. And each record consists of two fields, like I said, a name field and a phone number field. The name should appear in the list box when the firm is loaded. Well, not firm, but when the form, of course, is loaded. And when a name is highlighted, both the name and the phone number of the person should appear in the text boxes at the bottom of the form. We will have an ability to delete a person by simply highlighting the name and then clicking a delete menu item. And we will have an ability to change or modify the person's name. We will select it, and then there will be in the text boxes we will change what we need to change and click modify, and we will be able to add new names and with the phone numbers. There will be an exit button or a menu that when clicked the list will be saved. So in other words, we will override the original list with a new updated list. Now I already made a form. It's very simple. This is the list box where all the names will be loaded with the phone numbers. When the name is clicked in this text box, the name will appear, and in this masked text box, the phone number will appear. You can see that this is masked over here in the properties. I set the mask to digits with a dash in between. This way I won't have to validate the input. It won't accept anything else but digits. And we have the menu. This is basically just the menu strip from the let me just show you. If I go to toolbox, and over here in the menus and toolbars there's a menu strip. Basically you just drag it on and then you will be able to simply just basically type the menu items. I'm associating a shortcut for each of the actions, like modify will be F1, add F2, and delete F3. That is simply done in the properties. If you click each of the items, let's say modify, over here in the properties, in the miscellaneous, there's a shortcut keys, and I associated F1 with it. Add has F2 associated with it, and again F3 is associated with delete. And all we have we have the exit, which basically when clicked, again the file will be saved, the updated file. So update is basically a drop-down menu with three options. Exit is just basically a button, you click it and the form exits. Okay, so let's get started, I guess. Oh, let me just, before we do, over here I put the text file in my debug folder. If you don't see all the items in it, click this show all files, this little icon over here, then you'll be able to see all the files inside each folder. And again, you can see that the names are simply formatted as a name, first and last, and a number, separated by comma. There's nothing else. So all right, that's let me just save the file. This was the text file, and now we can start coding. So first thing first, we need to basically load the form. So when I go to our form load, well, before we do that, we need to load the file, the text file, into an array. And that's going to be done above about all all the functions and methods, and because this file has to be accessible from various routines. Like when we click update, it will deal with the same array, same file. When we click exit, again we will be saving the same file. So we need to have access to it throughout the form. So in a form level, I will simply declare, I'll just call it file. It's going to be an array, and it will contain just the strings. And all we will do is read all lines. And the file, as you can see over here, is called member phones.txt. So member phones.txt. So this will load the text file, and each line of the text file will be an element in an array called file. So the first thing we need to do is, when the form loads, we want to populate the list box. Now, since we are using other other items to populate the list box, like when we click update, the list box will refresh and we will populate it with the new values that are in the file. The same if we delete a name, we don't want to have it still displayed in the list box. In other words, the list box display will be called throughout the program. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a display over here, a sub display, in which we will basically display all the items from the array into the list box. So list box, I named it members. First we will clear everything that is already there, because we have to populate it with the refreshed or the new items. And all we have to do is, it's a simple for each loop. We will get an element n, for example. You can name it anything you want in the file. The file is the array with all the names and numbers, and all we have to do is add the items to the list box. So items.add, and we are adding the name only. We're not adding the phone numbers. So we have to split it. The first portion of the split will be the name itself. The second will be the phone numbers, which in this case we will simply ignore. So we will go to string and split, and we are splitting it by a comma, because this is a comma separated file. And again, we are only interested in the first element, which is the element 0, because it's 0 based. Again, if this file is an array that contains the line by line, this is one element. This is element 0 in the array, and we are interested only in this portion. So if you split it by the comma, this is the split 0, and this would be the split 1, which in this case we ignore, because again we are only populating the names. So we have the split here, and all we have to do now, we need to sort it. Well, we don't have to necessarily sort it, but they want us to keep it sorted, so sorted equals true. And at the same time, we can simply clear our text box and the masked text box for the phone and number. So it simply will be empty. And the same with since this is a masked text box, so I named it MTB as for masked text box, phone text, and again it will be empty. So now we have a function that we can call, or sub that we can call throughout the program. So the first time we're gonna call it is when the program actually loads. So when the form loads, we will simply call our display function. So let's test that. And you can see we populated just the names, and this is blank. Well, this is blank because we did not really do anything with it yet. But when we click the update, modify, or add, we simply want to clear these, we want to display the updated list and clear these text boxes. That's why I added these two lines. Okay, so now we have the names in the list box. So now what I want to do is when I click the name in the list box, I want to display the name and the phone number in these text boxes. So I double click this, and this is the select index changed, and basically what I'm going to do here is create a query and populate the text boxes. So basically we will loop through the file and find name that matches the selected text in the list box, and return the name and appropriate phone number. Okay, so when I click the name, I will find in our file, I will find that name, and it of course has the associated phone number. So I will populate the text boxes with those. So dim, I'll just create a query, and I'll call it just P for short, for person, in file. And we will create a name, so we will do let name as string equal. And what does it equal? Well, it equals, again, we not to upper, but to string. We'll convert it to string. And just like we did before, we'll split it. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. It's the element 0. Now we of course need the phone number as well, so we will do phone, and that equals P. We'll convert it to string, split. Again, we're splitting it by the comma, except this time it's the element 1. So now we have the name, we have the phone number. All we have to do is just make sure that the phone number, the name that we are looking for is actually the one that is selected in the list box. So where our name equals whatever is being selected, so the selected item, and we will return or select name and the phone. And over here, all we have to do is now we only get one record, so we got the text equals our query, converting it into list, and again we are searching for the query basically returns an array, so this is the element at index of 0. There's only one, so there's only element 0. Name that to string. So this is this will retrieve the name over here from the query, and we will do the same for the phone. It's gonna be very similar. Again, we only have one element 0. Could probably do the at first. Let me just do this for now. And so this is the mtb phone, and this will return not a name but a phone. All right, so let's test that. So I have it populated. When I click the name, you can see the name's changed, and the phone numbers associated with that name is displayed as well. Now I want to show you another way how to do this. This is one way. This is a little more complicated. I just wanted to make sure that you understand that we are retrieving only one record, even though, and this is an array because it has a name and a phone number. This is already split in a query, so there's only one element in the array. That's basically kind of like a structure. You know, it has a name and a phone number. It's not a structure, but you know, it has like two items but only one element. Another way to do it, since we are only retrieving one record, is to go to the list and can just retrieve first. Again, we are only getting one, so that's gonna be the only one selected. So if I run it again, I can test that. Again, it works the same. So I'm not sure which one is the preferred method. I would prefer this one, but you know, if you wanna like do it as an array, that's fine as well. Okay, so we have that. So next thing we can do is start working on the menus. So let's do, you know what, let's do add first. So if I do add, what am I gonna be doing? I'm gonna be, if name has been entered into text boxes, we will append it to the file. So when I click add, whatever is gonna be in these two text boxes will be added to the list box, and upon closing the form, it will be also saved in the file itself. So first we need to make sure that we don't add in empty records, because I don't want to use it to just keep clicking add when there's nothing in the text boxes. So we will simply do a condition if the text name dot text is not empty and the phone, the masked text box phone dot text is not empty, so in other words both of them have to be entered, then we can proceed. Now since we are dealing with an array and adding element to it, we have to redeem the array, so we will do redeem, but we want to keep all the records that are already there. We don't want to override them, so another keyword we need to use is preserve. So this will create, this is basically we add an empty element to the array. So we will do file, and we will simply add the file.count. Remember, normally you would do file.count. If you loop through it, we would do count -1 because we started from 1. So when you do count as it is without -1, that will basically add one element to the array, because it's one more than what is there right now, because again we're starting from counting from 0. So so this basically just add one more, I'll call it index, to array, and now we can add to this index some value, and it's gonna be the record that we are adding. So we will do file dot count, this time -1, because we already created an extra one. So now again, since this is the thing that when we calculate or starting to calculate from 0, you have to account for the upper bounds and the lower bounds of the array, but mostly for the upper bounds, so you don't overflow the array. And we will simply add whatever is in the text boxes, and the format we are adding it to the file is the name, then comma, and then the phone number. Okay, now we want to also add this. This is just going to add it to the file, but now we want to redisplay the updated file into our list box. So we will call our display sub procedure, and that's really all. Except I can do an else statement. If this is not if these are empty indeed, or one of them is empty, we will simply add a message box that says nothing to add, just something simple. So let's test that. So this is our original file. If I go over here and click add, it's empty. There's nothing to add. These text boxes are empty. Now if I add my name, for example, and I'm just gonna click, instead of clicking this add, let me just click F2, because that's the shortcut associated with it. And now we have the name placed into our list box. On the bottom it's being appended. So that seems to be working okay. Now when I close it now, we don't have the logic that we don't write the file yet, so the name is actually not being stored at the moment. But before we do that, I'm gonna do the delete and the modify. So yeah, let's do the delete next. So to delete, we need to select the item from the list box and then click delete and remove the item. So I will do delete dim, I will call it name to delete, a string, not stack, string, and that equals to whatever is being selected. Whatever item is being selected from the list box, that is gonna be my name that I want to delete. And so now I can create, let's say, a temporary array, because remember we're deleting, so array now holds one less name than is in the current file. So I'm gonna create a temporary array. I'll just call it temporary names, and the number of items that I want is gonna be basically whatever is in the list box. So we will count the items in the list box. But -2. If it was -1, that would be the exact number of items, again, because it starts from 0. But if you do -2, that will actually be one less. That's the size of the array that we need, again, because we are deleting item, so we need one less than is currently in the list box, and that's gonna be a string. Now if our name to delete is not empty, and again, we don't want to try to delete something that is not being selected, then we can select name to delete, and again we can just do a query from n as a name in file, and we will create a name, a string. This is the same thing again. We will split it. To as in the comma. Again, we would get the name and the phone number. We are only interested in the name in this case, where name does not equal to name to delete. So in other words, we are picking the opposite. We are actually selecting all the names that we don't want to delete, that we want to preserve. All right, so select, and we're kind of going in reverse here, and you'll soon see why. All right, so now we can write the temp data into array and display new list. All right, so we will redeem our file, and the number of items will be whatever we now have in the in our temp names. All right, in the temp name array, that's the count of it. That's the number of elements in it -1. That's exactly what we need. We need the exact number of indexes that are currently in the temp array over here. So we have this is our new file, and now we can simply add our query. Since this is an array, we can simply do toArray, not toList. We are not dealing with the list right now. The file, remember, file is an array, so we simply convert query to array and populate the file with all the elements in it, and we will display our sub with the new file. And over here we checked if if the delete was not empty, but if it is, we will simply again do a message box, and that's something like nothing to delete. Okay, so to recap quickly here, we are creating a temporary array with one less element than our current array it has. We already know what name to delete by because it matches the one that is the selected item. Now if nothing selected, we'll simply display nothing to delete, but if something was selected, that's the name we want to delete. Over here we are picking all the names that we want to keep. Basically we are omitting the one that we want to delete. Rather than just removing it, we are creating the temporary array with all the names that we want to keep, and then we will place that array into our file. All right, and the name that is being omitted will not be placed into our file. So now our file now, in essence, does not contain that name. So it was basically deleted. So let me run that. Let's see if it's gonna compile. All right, so let's say I have Herbert Norton, and I'll click delete, and you can see he's not on the list anymore. Now delete has a shortcut of F3, so let me just say, let's say Carlos Sanchez. If I press F3, it's gone. It's gone. Everyone's gone. If I try to delete something when no one's selected, it says nothing to delete. All right, so we have add, we have delete. Now let's do the modify, and our modify. Basically, we are just going to select the item, make a change, and reflect that change in the list box. So first thing we need to do is check if anything is actually being selected, just like we did before. So if it's not empty, then we're okay, we're good to go. Else we will do display message box, and it says nothing to modify. All right, so if we're good to go, then what we can do, we can change array element that matches selected name with edited record. The record consisting of the name and the phone number. So we can do a simply for I as integer equals 0 to whatever the number of elements are, minus 1, of course, again because it's 0 based, and we'll simply check if we have the name. So if our file I, and we will split it, and we are checking for the name, so it's gonna be split by a comma and element 0. So that's actually, it's gonna give us name in the text file. So we will go one by one, and we'll see if this one equals to one that is being selected. And if it is, then we will simply do file. We will override it basically. So instead of what was there before, now the value of that index or of that element will be the whatever is being in the text boxes. So it's the text box plus, and again the format is the name, comma, phone number. So this is gonna override the value that was there before with the value that is currently in the two text boxes, for the one for the name and one for the phone number. So that's our loop. Once it finds it, that's it overrides it. And now we have to display the updated list. So let me run that. So let's say I wanna change Fred Morgan to Fred Morgan Morganson, for example, I'll go to modify, and over here you see that it's Fred Morganson. Let's say I want to change his phone number to 222-3333. All right, and now let me try the shortcut, which is F1. If I press F1, it was updated. Now we can see that it was updated. Because how was it? Maybe it wasn't yet. Let me see if I did something wrong. 222-3333. Yeah, it keeps the update. I'm not sure if the shortcut works, because if I press F1, oh, I'm pressing 1 instead of F1. You can't see that, but yeah, that's my bad. Yeah, so it seems to be working now. Yeah, you can see that the Herbert Norton number changed. So let's say I'll change this to just once and 0 at the end. So if I press F1, Mike Nixon now has all ones and 10 at the end. So our add, delete, and modify functions work, and now all that is to do is to exit. And when we exit, upon exit, we will simply get the content of that array called file and write it into our text file, overriding whatever we have currently in our text file. So that's very simple. We'll simply write the array into the file, replacing old file. And it's input output file dot write all lines. So this is gonna be, the file name will be the same because we are overriding it, so it's gonna be member phones.txt, and we are overriding it with the array. As you can see over here, it is expecting a string array to write to the file, and the string array that we have is called file. And at the end we will simply quit the application. So let's if I run that, and let's say I add a name, Pavel 1231234. So add is what was it, F2, so it's here. And I'm gonna change, let's say, Fred Morgan again to Fred Morganson, and that's F1 to update, but I'm gonna delete John Smith. So now when I exit, the form exits, it's asking me if I this is not an error message, it simply says the file has been modified outside the source editor. That's because I have the phone member phones.txt open, so I'll just click yes for now. And you can see Pavel's here, Smith is gone, and Fred is now Fred Morganson. So it took the array and wrote it into a file. Now there's one thing that I want to show you. If we run the program, and I will change the name, let's say to Pavelson, and update it, and then we, instead of clicking exit, we will exit with the X in the corner. The file, the way I have it set up, preserves the change. However, normally it wouldn't. You have to make a little change. I added, and it's very simple. There's a all you have to do is add me.form closing after handles after this event. We want to associate this event or this functionality with two events. One when we click the exit button over here in the menu, and one when we click the X. And when we click the X, what is triggered is it's called form closing. And so in other words, on the form closing, we want to write the file as well. We don't just want to do it when the button exit is clicked. If I remove this, let me run that again. What's gonna happen now, if I change Pavelson back to Pavel, it shows right here, and when I click X and I open the file, it still says Pavelson. It did not change it back to Pavel. The reason is, again, because now the way we have it set up, this functionality to override the file is triggered only when exit is called. That's why we have to also call the me, which is the form, and form not closed but closing. Upon form closing, no matter whether it was with the exit or with the X on the right corner, this is triggered and the file will be overwritten. So if I run it again, I change Pavelson back to Pavel, I update it, click X, and when I open the file, here I am, Pavel, not Pavelson anymore. Alright, so this is the exercise. I hope it makes some sense. This is basically just, looping through an array and changing elements. Again, we have to account when we add or delete, we are changing the number of elements in the array, so we have to redeem the array, and we have to keep track on how many elements do we need. Do we need one more or one less? One more obviously when we add in, one less when we are deleting. So we have to keep track of that. And when we are modifying, we're simply overriding the value of each element with the values that are being in the text boxes. Alright, so I hope you liked it, and if you did, please like the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I will see you next time. Take